Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to a Court Call Flash with Ronnie Nunn. We're going to go over the play from last night, a key, crucial play where Paul George attempted to tie the game against the Heat, and there was a question of whether or not LeBron James was A, taking a foul, B, fouled him at all, and it ended up being a no call and a miss and the game was over. So Ronnie, give us your impressions. What's happening in this play, and what do you think should have been called?
It's a play at the top of the key. And, Hill has got the ball pretty well. And all of a sudden, here comes popping into your picture, Paul George. It happens all so fast. There's a shot. And then, of course, he's upset. As we watch this play continually, behind the three, LeBron has his hands on him, one the left hand, and then all of a sudden, a little bit of the right hand before he actually comes down to the ground. So the question is, did that touch or contact interfere with Paul George's shot? And I think, we've seen a play here and there that happens like that. I think this is cosmetically too noticeable not to respond to. I can see why the official also did not, but only because there are two officials on the top of our screen, the bottom of the screen, sort of had half of this play. They're looking at it, and it was kind of hard to distinguish at that angle if there is a push to the left or to the right, because that's going away from one official and it's coming towards another official. It's tough to see. I think, as you mentioned when we first talked about it, if the official was in the middle of the court, he might have been able to see this lateral movement that was created by LeBron against George. But as you see it there, it's tough. I just think one hand followed by the other hand while the player is still alighted was something that we should have addressed as an official.
Are the officials in this instance in the right position to, even just from a fundamental standpoint, are they in the right position to be able to see this play correctly?
Actually, they really are. I would like to have seen the slot official, which is at the free throw line extended at the bottom of our screen. I'm a believer that when you have high pick and rolls or the final shot of a game, that you want to adjust yourself up to make sure you're part of that play. Two officials, that's the action area of the play that we once discussed, and I think those terms are still discussed from my time in that leadership role. If you have an action area and you can get two sets of eyes on a play, because that's the play of the day right there, you want that. And I think even though he's not as high as I would like him, you can see his head is turned and he's watching it. I just think that they need to be very proactive on looking for a place to call, an old Darryl Garrettson axiom. And if you're doing that, then you can always say, okay, I don't want it, but I want to look for it to call. So in this case, I think they were in a tough spot. Even though they were in a good spot, the contact by LeBron made it tough. It wasn't like it wasn't visible. It was a matter of, is it enough? And I think that it was enough. And cosmetically, it looked like it was enough because one hand was followed by another hand prior to George coming back down to the ground. And just to throw it in there for the basketball viewers, when you see a Paul George have a trajectory of a shot that completely is off to the side of the rim, when he's not being touched in the elbows or anywhere like that, tells you that there might have been an alteration of his own verticality to shoot.
On Twitter, I challenged people who wanted to argue with me about whether that was a foul. I said, okay, you should get on the court, take a pro three-pointer with somebody just touching you on your waist and see if that has any effect on you. And I would defy anyone to tell me that it wouldn't. And so, like we said, there does appear as Paul George goes straight up, LeBron James has the momentum going to his right, that there is a little bit of contact. And again, when you're shooting a three-pointer, that's a huge advantage for a defender. So I think we have two questions here. Did they see the contact? And it does appear like they would have seen it. It looked pretty clear. And then is it enough? Which then brings us back to that same argument we had before, or discussion about, do the referees in these situations want to swallow the whistle and let the players decide the game?
Yeah, the good news on that is certainly before me, and then especially during my time in the directorship role, we were constantly pushing to get that myth away because it was really placed on the officiating staff. And like all these plays come about, here's a myth here we can talk about, whether it's LeBron James, who doesn't get called for the foul because he's a star. But then again, there's Paul George, who's a star for his team. Why didn't he get it? Then we can compare who's got a brighter star to them. And then, of course, it's a last-second shot. And by the way, it's 3-point difference, might have been smarter to come up with the call, and then what's the worst that could happen? It's a tie game. All those variables for an official, one needs to get those out of your mind and not to be able to absorb those from what people say to you. You have to judge that play, and you got to recognize whether that contact is marginal or illegal. And if it's more than marginal and it's illegal, then you got to call it. And also, some plays kind of look cosmetically more than they are, and you've got to add that into your variable. You don't need any other variable because that's a tough enough pitch to hit. And that's what I see here on this play. So I think the guys really did the best they could do, but I think if they looked at it a little bit further, they might have seen 2 touches, makes for a problem.
So in your mind, bottom line is that you felt it should have been a call of 3 free throws.
Yeah, and that's a tip of a balance, very, very, very slight balance towards a foul. That's why on the court, that happens so quickly that, an official has got to really digest that thing and really call it. And part of that digestion might have helped had they seen the trajectory of the ball. Because once the ball is released, it kind of gives you an idea as you go backwards how that all came about. And I'm not saying you referee trajectories or a ball or another thing that's laid on officials sometimes that they may have created years back, as if a guy misses a layup on contact, maybe there was more contact than we thought. You really have to view the contact in every situation. By the way, you take that same play and you drive to the basket, and if a guy misses that layup, he just frankly misses that layup. We don't see that part of the game as enough to call it illegal. But I think on jump shots, especially squared jump shots, contact like that can affect a shooter. As we all know, a slight touch on an elbow is going to affect anybody shooting. I don't care what level you are, even if you're out in the park.
And just very quickly, LeBron can't foul Paul George away from the ball as if to give him 2 free throws and not let him get a 3-pointer. That is correct, because there is a rule that if you foul off the ball under 2 minutes, what is the penalty there?
In under 2 minutes, it's one shot and your team gets the possession if it's an off-ball foul, because you don't want to foul to gain advantage of getting a ball on free throws, for example. So that's why the ball is returned to the offensive team. But we have to remember, away from the fouls truly have to be away. And that means that the guy that's being fouled is truly out of the play. He's not part of getting ready to run around a screen where he's part of a play script. He's part of a play script. That would not be an away from the play foul. So
LeBron could have actually fouled George as he's coming around that screen before he receives the pass, and it just would have been 2 free throws.
Yes, if they're in the penalty, certainly there would have been just 2 free throws, and because that was part of the play. As he's coming around that screen, if he would have fouled him on holding to where he wanted to go, that would not have been away from the play foul. Although it was a foul away from the ball, so away from the play truly is not consistent with the connection to the play at all. Okay. And that's why some of the people like Howard or Shaq, well, the original person was Wilt Chamberlain. That's why they would go hide in corners and people would go over and foul them because they were not in the play. But you have to really analyze away from the play foul based on something that is not part of the connection to the play.
Wow. Well, again, every time we do this, something else comes up that you enlighten us with. I'm not sure anybody understood that nuance before. Certainly, I don't think I did either. So terrific stuff, and a really tough loss by the Pacers. But let me just say this: it was an incredible game, and I cannot wait for a 7-game series between these two guys.
Yeah, it's great to watch basketball this way, and it's great to be in it as a referee to adjudicate such a game. But this is the talent that's all over the league today. Teams like Indiana, this issue of the other mythical things of small markets versus big markets. Basketball is a pure game that belongs to us here, and people are buying it all over the world. As in my trips going with FIBA Europe and other places, it's a great game, and it's getting better, and people are copying it, and they're enjoying it. And look at here, we've got 2 teams that obviously are going to fight, for the Eastern Finals. Now, there's some others that will creep up. In the NBA, the game is never over. So, even little margins of victory are so tight that each team can really do a lot of damage. And there's a lot of season left when you play 82 games.
Well, thanks for joining us, sports fan, for this very special Court Call Flash with Ronnie Nunn. Really great stuff. And don't forget, at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel, we're a conversation. You in?
I'm in, Coach. Thanks for having me again.